Right in the heart of Arlington, under a biting November sky, steel cuffs snapped shut on the wrists of a Tomb Sentinel. Staff Sergeant Anya Sharma stood like carved marble as the MP locked the restraints, her gaze fixed forward, unwavering. Not a flinch, not a word. The crowd froze, whispers cutting through the cold. To them, she was a woman in a flawless uniform caught in a public disgrace. But what they didn't know was that this guard had twice saved the 4-star general, now ordering her arrest. Before I show you exactly what happened, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. Now let's get into it. The air at Arlington National Cemetery was sharp enough to cut glass, carrying the scent of damp earth and cold stone. The sky over Virginia was a heavy, bruised gray, pressing down on the endless, silent rows of white headstones. At the tomb of the unknown soldier, a crowd of about 50 people huddled together, their coats pulled tight against a wind that seemed to carry the whispers of history. They were tourists, veterans, a high school history class, all there to witness the solemn, clockwork perfection of the changing of the guard. The ritual was a promise kept in motion, a testament to those who never came home, and the air hummed with a reverence that settled deep in your chest. But none of them knew they were about to witness a promise broken. A ripple of motion disturbed the somber peace. A group of men in crisp, imposing uniforms approached the plaza, their polished boots echoing with an authority that felt out of place. At their center was General James T. Callahan, a 4-star legend from the Pentagon, his face a roadmap of hard-won battles, his chest a constellation of medals. He was there for a high-profile memorial event, one with foreign dignitaries and a schedule timed to the second. But his jaw was a knot of granite, and his eyes were locked on the lone sentinel pacing the mat. Sergeant Anya Sharma moved with the mechanical grace of a ghost. 21 steps, a crisp turn, her rifle shifting in a single fluid motion. A 21-second pause, still as the marble tomb behind her. Then 21 steps back. Her fiery red hair was pulled into a severe, perfect bun, and her ice-blue eyes seemed to see everything and nothing at once. Her uniform was immaculate, a shield of tradition and honor. To the crowd, she was a symbol. But beneath the uniform was a soldier forged in the furnace of Afghanistan, a woman who carried 2 bronze stars and the weight of decisions that meant the difference between life and body bags. General Callahan stopped just feet from the tomb, his entourage fanning out like a conquering army. The crowd's quiet chatter died, replaced by a tense, waiting silence. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Callahan's voice sliced through the chill, calm but heavy with absolute command. Staff Sergeant Sharma, stand down. You're under arrest for insubordination and disruption of protocol. The words landed like a mortar strike. A collective gasp sucked the air from the plaza. A teenage girl tugged her father's sleeve. Dad, what's happening? He shushed her, his eyes wide with disbelief. Near the rope barrier, an old veteran, his jacket heavy with pins from forgotten wars, muttered, "This isn't right. You don't do this here." 2 hulking military police officers stepped forward, their faces impassive. One deftly slid the rifle from Sharma's shoulder. The other produced the handcuffs, the metal glinting coldly under the floodlights. Sharma didn't move a muscle. She didn't blink. She stood with the same perfect posture as if she were still on guard. Inside, though, one thought repeated itself. Truth walks its own 21 steps. It will arrive. The sharp click of the cuffs closing echoed across the stone. It was a sound of profound violation. They're arresting her. Right here, a tourist whispered, his phone already recording. At the tomb? What the hell did she do? An NBC reporter's camera was rolling, her journalist's instincts screaming that this was the story of the year. From the back, the old veteran's voice boomed, thick with indignation. Let her speak. You don't cuff a sentinel at the tomb unless the crime is unforgivable. Callahan ignored the crowd. His focus was a laser on Sharma, who finally broke her silence. Her voice was low, but it carried across the plaza with unnerving clarity, a steady flame in the wind. General, one truth before you take me away. It's about why I broke that order and why you're still here to give it. 3 days earlier. The scene was the same, but the atmosphere was different. The air, thick with anticipation, buzzed with the energy of a major memorial ceremony. The crowd was larger, 100 people or more, foreign dignitaries in dark suits, Pentagon brass adorned with medals, all cleared by security. General Callahan himself was scheduled to deliver the keynote address. Sergeant Sharma was on duty, her body performing the ritual of the 21 steps, but her mind was a razor-sharp radar, scanning, analyzing. Her instincts, honed over 3 tours in the dust and chaos of Helmand Province, screamed that something was wrong. It was a man on the edge of the crowd. 40s, nondescript, but his jacket was too bulky for the mild afternoon, and he clutched a heavy-looking backpack. He avoided eye contact, his gaze darting around nervously, and he kept checking his watch not like someone waiting, but like someone counting down. To anyone else, he was just another face in the crowd. To Sharma, he was a ghost from her past, a pattern of behavior she had seen before, one that ended in fire and blood. She keyed her radio, her voice low and urgent. "Watchtower, this is Sentinel 1. I have a possible threat, civilian male, east side of the plaza. Requesting immediate security check." The voice that came back belonged to her commanding officer, Major Evans. It was dismissive and patient. "We're on a tight schedule, Sergeant. The dignitaries are waiting. Don't make a scene." There was an unspoken edge to his tone, a subtle condescension she had heard before. "Don't be emotional, Sharma." She pushed back, her voice firm, stripped of all emotion but certainty. "Sir, this individual's behavior is a textbook match for every bomber profile I've studied. I am formally requesting a security intercept." The answer was a hard no. "Protocol is clear. The ceremony stays on schedule. You're due to be relieved for the changing of the guard in 5 minutes. Stand down and prepare for rotation." An order. A direct, unequivocal order. Her career, her reputation, her entire military life was built on following them. But the instincts that had kept her and her unit alive in Afghanistan were a physical force, a cold dread coiling in her gut. She could see the potential blast radius in her mind's eye, the marble of the tomb shattered, the white headstones stained red. The relief guard was approaching. The ceremony was about to begin. Sharma made a choice. She keyed her radio again, this time on a restricted emergency channel, bypassing her CO. "All security units, this is Sentinel 1. I am declaring a code red security threat at the Tomb Plaza. Hostile actors suspected. Initiate emergency protocol now. I repeat, initiate emergency protocol now." Chaos erupted. The decision sent shockwaves through the event. Dignitaries were hurried away. The schedule was obliterated. The ceremony was delayed by a staggering 45 minutes as security teams swarmed the area. And General Callahan, who was about to step up to the podium, was left standing amidst the confusion, his face a mask of cold fury. To him, to Major Evans, to the entire chain of command, Sharma's actions were an unprecedented breach of discipline. It was a public embarrassment, a direct challenge to authority at the most sacred site in the nation. A report landed on Callahan's desk an hour later. It was scathing. It detailed Sharma's gross insubordination, her hysterical overreaction, and her blatant disregard for the chain of command. It recommended immediate and severe disciplinary action. But the report, drafted in haste by an infuriated Major Evans, had a critical omission. It never mentioned what, if anything, the security teams had found when they finally cornered the man with a heavy backpack. All it mentioned was the disruption. All Callahan saw was the defiance. Back in the present, the plaza was a cathedral of silence. Every phone, every camera, every eye was fixed on the woman in handcuffs. General Callahan's face was unreadable, a stone fortress, but he gave a curt nod. "1 minute, Sergeant. Make it count." Sharma took a slow, steadying breath. When she spoke, her voice was not that of a subordinate pleading her case, but of a teacher explaining a hard-learned lesson. "This isn't about defiance, sir. It's about what I saw 3 days ago, and what I saw 10 years ago in Afghanistan." Callahan's eyes sharpened. A flicker of something, annoyance, recognition, crossed his face. Helmand Province, 2015, Sharma began, and her words painted a scene of dust and blistering heat. You were a colonel then, sir, leading a high-level inspection of a forward operating base. No press, no fanfare, just a small convoy and your security team. I was on point, running advanced recon. The crowd leaned in, forgetting to breathe. The old veteran in the back straightened up, his eyes locked on Sharma with a look of dawning comprehension. Halfway to the base, she continued, I spotted a local near the road. He was dressed like a farmer, but he moved wrong. Too tense, too aware. He was trying to look casual, but every muscle in his body was screaming. Her voice was low, almost conversational, but it held the weight of absolute authority. I radioed to halt the convoy and check him out. My CO told me to stand down. Said we didn't have time, that your schedule was locked and solid. But I had seen that exact posture before, in men who didn't plan on walking away alive. She paused, letting the silence stretch, thick with unspoken meaning. So I made the call. I broke protocol. I stopped your convoy and ordered a search. A memory was stirring behind Callahan's eyes. A dusty road. A sudden halt. The angry shouts over the radio. He remembered the fury he felt at the delay, at the young sergeant who had dared to disrupt his timetable. We found a vest under his robes, Sharma said, her voice dropping, each word a hammer blow. Wired with enough C4 to vaporize every vehicle in that line. Including yours, sir. A subtle, sharp intake of breath from Callahan. It was almost imperceptible, but in the hush of the plaza, it was as loud as a gunshot. The NBC reporter scribbled furiously, her pen flying across her notepad. My CO chewed me out for an hour, Sharma went on, a faint, bitter irony in her tone. Said I'd risked the mission, embarrassed the chain of command. But that vest was real. The blast would have killed 30 men. The incident was classified, buried under the Official Secrets Act. I was told to keep my mouth shut, and I did, for 10 years. Until 3 days ago. She shifted her weight, the cuffs clinking softly, a stark metallic sound. That man at the ceremony, sir, the one I stopped, he had the same look in his eyes. He was checking his watch like he was counting down his own last seconds. I've seen that look in places where hesitation gets people killed. I radioed for a check and was told to stand down, to stick to the schedule. I refused. I stayed. Because this tomb, it's a promise. And I couldn't let that promise be broken by another man who didn't plan on walking away alive. Callahan stared at her, the fortress of his face beginning to crack. The two events, a decade apart, now stood side by side in his mind, a deadly, terrifying parallel. Sergeant Sharma's voice held steady, delivering the final, devastating piece of the puzzle. After I triggered the alert, security found something in his bag. A device, sir. An improvised explosive device, powerful enough to take out half this plaza. It was set to go off during your speech. Right here, at the tomb, a wave of sound washed over the crowd. Gasps, horrified murmurs, a woman's stifled cry. The boy who had been on his phone stared, his mouth agape. He stopped a bomb. He whispered to his mother. She stopped a bomb. The veteran shouted, "Damn right she did." At that moment, a security officer in a dark suit broke through the cordon, his face pale and urgent. He leaned in and spoke low into General Callahan's ear, but his words were picked up by a nearby reporter's microphone. "General, she's telling the truth. We found traces of RDX in the bag. The suspect bolted when we approached, but he's in custody now. Intel says it was a coordinated plot tied to an overseas cell. She saved us all, sir. She saved you." The truth landed on Callahan not like a revelation, but like a physical blow. The anger in his eyes was extinguished, replaced by a dawning, sickening horror. The face of the sergeant in Afghanistan, the anger he felt at the delay, the classified report he had signed without a second thought. It all came rushing back. Twice. This woman, this soldier he had just publicly shamed and put in chains, had disobeyed a direct order. And both times, she had saved his life. His jaw worked, but no words came out. He took a step forward, then another, his polished boots clicking on the cold stone. He stopped directly in front of Sharma. He looked at the steel cuffs on her wrists, then into her unwavering blue eyes. "Release her," he said to the MPs, his voice thick with an emotion no one had ever heard from him before. There was a moment's hesitation as protocol ground against reality. Then, one of the MPs produced a key. The sound of the cuffs opening was louder than the sound of them closing. It was the sound of a terrible mistake being undone. Sharma flexed her wrists, red marks circling her skin where the metal had bitten. Callahan turned to face the crowd, to face the cameras, to face the world. His voice, when he spoke, carried the weight of command, but it was softened by a raw, humbling humanity. This soldier did not act out of defiance. She acted on instinct forged in war. The uniform she wears isn't just for a ceremony. It's a shield for this nation, for this tomb, and for every soul who stands on this sacred ground. He turned back to Sharma, his voice dropping but audible to all. "I owe you my life, Sergeant." Twice over. The crowd was silent, a sacred, breathless quiet. Callahan stepped back and addressed the officers behind him, his voice once again like steel. "I want a full review of security protocols. And I want to know why a soldier with Sergeant Sharma's record was questioned instead of trusted." Effective immediately, any Sentinel with combat experience will have direct, unilateral authority to report threats, bypassing the immediate chain of command. No soldier will ever face arrest for protecting this place. A soft ripple of applause started, growing stronger. The veteran called out, "About damn time." Callahan looked at Sharma one last time. "I am ordering a full honors review of your service record. Your contributions have been overlooked for far too long." Sharma didn't smile. She didn't speak. She simply gave a slow, deliberate nod. Then she stepped back to her post, took her rifle from the waiting MP, and resumed her patrol. 21 steps. Turn. Pause. Repeat. As the afternoon sun bled toward the horizon, casting long shadows across the marble, she was no longer just a sentinel. She was a legend. This story is about more than just a soldier's bravery. It's about the clash between rigid rules and the human intuition forged in fire. It proves that true honor isn't always found in obedience, but sometimes in the courage to defy in order to uphold a greater duty. It's a reminder that the most important promises are protected not by protocol alone, but by the instincts of those who stand guard. Have you ever had to trust your gut feeling even when authority told you that you were wrong? What would you have thought watching a decorated female Sentinel being arrested in such a public way? And do you think, in a world built on rules and hierarchy, that there must always be room for the person on the ground to make the final call when lives are on the line? If this story about courage and intuition reminded you that the real heroes don't always follow the script, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about the hidden guardians among us. Share this with someone who believes that true duty is owed to people, not just orders. We read every single comment and want to hear your thoughts. More stories about ordinary people making extraordinary choices are waiting on your screen. Watch those next, and we'll see you tomorrow with another moment that proves the simple truth. Real courage doesn't need to shout. It just stands its post, ready no matter the cost.